Icy Hot Pro with 2 max strength pain relievers. Targets multiple pain receptors. Ice works fast. Heat makes it last.
This Steve Jones Show podcast is now loading. The Steve Jones Show podcast is presented by Sunbury Motor Company, Purdy Insurance, and Brewers Outlet. Bringing you an in-depth look at Penn State sports and more. This is the Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. The Steve Jones Show is presented by Purdy Insurance, Brewers Outlet, and Sunbury Motor Company. Now from the Sunbury Motor Studio, here's Steve Jones.
It is the suit's birthday, so I just assumed we had the day off. Our version of Christmas in July.
He's not here.
Oh, no kidding. He's the, and I mean this in all sincerity. So this is, I'm not joking around on this. You know, I'll kid around a lot because I think the world of the guy. We'll get rolling with this part. Get to John in 1 second because we want to tell everybody that this half hour is being brought to you by our good friends at Sunbury Motors. Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury. Sunbury Motors, Kia, routes 11 and 15, Hummels Wharf, and online at sunburymotors.com. Ford, Kia, Hyundai, the best in new inventory, great pre-owned inventory with the Sunbury Motors guarantee. Terrific service department that backs it up every step of the way. At Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury. Sunbury Motors, Kia, routes 11 and 15, Hummels Wharf, and online at sunburymotors.com. Hello, John. How are you today?
I am doing fantastic, Steve. How are you?
Whoop. Hello, John?
Oh, yeah, you got me. Sorry. It broke up there for a second.
There we go.
I'm doing great, Steve. How are you?
Good. The piece that you wrote about James Franklin, getting to know him and about his life before Penn State, it was illuminating, I think, for most people. What stuck out to you about, from your point of view, what stuck out to you about that profile?
Yeah, I think, honestly, a lot, right? Like, it was a long conversation. It was illuminating, right? Like, I had known some of the story, but I didn't know everything. And I think, you could see it kind of explains who he is, right? Like, who he is, his personality, his passion for what he does, how much he cares about his people, really was explained, I think, by a lot of the stuff he told me. One of the things that really stuck with me was I had a line in the story, something about, when he's all in on someone, essentially he's all in on them and they mean everything to him. And I think that's what stuck out, right? Like, once he doesn't have a big circle, but once you're in, like, you mean everything to him. And he, kind of will go to great lengths for the people that mean the most to him.
Yeah, I think that was important about it. I think the relationship with his parents, important. I think it explains why. I mean, he is a tremendous father, and you can see being a father means a lot to him, and I think that came out in the article.
Yeah, I think that, like, is, it drives him, right? Like, he talked a lot about how, there are statistics that prove essentially, like, you spend so much time running away from becoming this person that was, a major part of your life. For him, it was his father, and he was trying to sort of run away from it. And there are stats that prove essentially the more educated you are, the more likely you are to break the cycle. And so that was important to him, and getting his education and furthering his education that way, going to college and everything. But yeah, I thought it was, I think it's very clear, like, a lot of what motivates, who he is as a father is proving that doesn't have to be the way, right? Like, that you don't have to be like that, how his father was. And I think that's led to him being the type of dad he is now.
Okay, so this is the first day of training camp. It is a team that has expectations. How do you feel in the offseason, John, how James, when asked about expectations, how he's handled the questions?
Yeah, I was a little surprised, right? Like there is, I guess, a little more acknowledgement of those expectations. I mean, not that they ever run from them. I haven't heard. I don't think he said the phrase 1-0 once at media days in Vegas, which, going into that, I kind of expected that's what would happen, right? That, it would be a lot of Nevada, and not a lot of, broader conversation. But I think he's kind of embraced it, and I think because of that, the team has embraced it. They are still focused on the task at hand, the idea of, like, be where your feet are and all of that. But I think there's an acknowledgement that they're in full control of meeting those expectations. Like they have to take care of their business, but at the end of the day, they are the ones who can dictate just how far they can go this year, and they're really embracing that part of it.
After watching 16 games last season, depth played a critical role of getting Penn State to the Final Four last year because of the guys they lost. Look, if we're sitting here a year ago and you're going to tell me that KJ Winston's going to play 5 quarters, I'd be like, okay, that's a big one. But yet they overcame a lot last year. What does depth mean to you on this team?
Yeah, I think it's going to be important that they develop it, right? And James talks a lot about those games where you're kind of winning by a lot and you can get guys in and you develop that depth for later in the season. I think these first 3 games of the year, that's going to be crucial, right? I think, you mentioned KJ Winston last year. I think they need to develop a couple guys at safety, right? I think everyone feels confident in what Zakee Wheatley can do back there, but beyond him, there are some question marks still with King Mack and guys like that and how it's going to shake out. But I think that is what fall camp is going to be for, right? Like a lot of those positions that they need to develop depth, they're going to have the time to do it. They're going to have the reps to do it, potentially, and blow out wins early. And those are going to be really important. But I also think, you look at some key spots like offensive line, like for this offense, tight end, like defensive line, they do have some quality depth. It's just about making sure that the third level of the depth chart is strong. And if, that group needs to step up, they can play a role, right? If someone goes down, it's not always about whoever replaces them. It's about the backfilling behind that and how those reps get replaced. So I think that's going to be important over this next, month and a half or so.
Yeah, there's also another part, too, that I think is always important, John. You need your stars to be your stars, especially in the big games. How important is it to James Franklin? He appears to have a depth of stars.
Yeah, I think that is, everything with this team, right? Like you talk about the expectations. Those conversations are happening because so many of those star players came back. Denai Dennis-Sutton, Zane Durant, Drew Aller, Nick Singleton, Katron Allen. You can go on and on about the guys that came back. And that's why Penn State has these expectations, because they have that depth of stars, right? They have so many guys who can kind of carry the offense on any given day. They have so many game records on defense that can, both Zane Durant and Denai Dennis-Sutton are capable of blowing a game up for an offense. So is Tony Rojas. A.J. Harris can turn a game. Zakee Wheatley can turn a game. So they have so many guys kind of at the top of the roster that are capable of changing games. That's what's caused these expectations. That's why I think a lot of us expect them to make a deep run into the postseason again, because the high-end talent is some of the highest end in all of college football.
When you write something, you'll get reaction to it. It's part of what the business is today. What's the reaction to Penn State football when you're writing articles right now?
Yeah, I think it is, there is some inherent skepticism, right? Like you will always have the people that, immediately go to the big game James thing. They'll say, well, let's see, them do it against Ohio State. There's skepticism about performance in big games. And, to what James Franklin said at Big Ten Media Days, they're in position to essentially shut everybody up, right? Like all of those things, all of those times that they're second-guessed, all the people that are kind of doubting them, they're in position to dispel those things and to make it so, the narrative isn't true. But, yeah, I think that's been a lot of the reaction right now, right? Like nationally, there's a lot of skepticism. I think even among Penn State fans, there's some hesitance to embrace the expectations, right? Because there's the anxiety of being the perceived favorite in not just in the Big Ten, but in the country. And I think that Penn State fans in recent years haven't dealt with that, right? And so I think locally there's some apprehension, some anxiousness about it, and I think nationally there's some skepticism, and I think that's partially fueling some of the players, and I'm sure the staff too, right? Like, they know that despite all the hype, all the expectation, there's still a large group of people that are doubting them, and they can kind of use that as motivation to help themselves take the next step forward.
And then I'll follow up to the original questions. What's been the reaction, Ben, to the profile you wrote about James, where he was so forthcoming about his life to this point?
Yeah, it has been overwhelming to that, right? Like, I was, anytime I write something like that, I'm always anxious myself, right? Like, you don't know what the reaction is going to be. You don't know how people are going to view it. You want to do the story justice. But I think the reaction to that has been pretty incredible. I think it's been a lot of what, we said at the top about, like, people kind of understand James now. There's a level of, like, oh, that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like, they read the story. I think most people didn't know all of the story. I think I doubt anyone knew really the entirety of it, but most people barely knew any of it. And so I think that has kind of it kind of has a chance to change the shape of the conversation about James Franklin, and I think it has to this point. I think, the reaction, one to the writing, I'm very appreciative of that, has been fantastic, but to his story, I think has been one of kind of acknowledgement and one of, resetting maybe the consensus about, for lack of better phrasing, like, why he is the way that he is.
Was there a question that you asked him that you were surprised he answered it?
Yeah, I asked him. He told me that essentially the cycle of his parents, separating, getting back together. I think it was 2nd, 6th, 9th, and 11th grade. I asked him. It's obviously a very sensitive subject, right? And you don't want to, infringe upon someone, when you don't want to overstep a line, I guess. But I asked him. I said, in 11th grade, what was the thing that changed it? And I don't know that I expected him to answer it. I don't know that I expected him to be as detailed as he was about it, right? Explaining that it was a physical confrontation. I kind of expected it to be like, something happened and that was it, right? But no, he was open about that there was a confrontation. I think the line in there about everyone was scared of him, scared of his dad, I should say, is powerful. And I think the line about, him being bigger than him, and that, there was, I didn't include this part of the quote, but essentially there was this reaction from his father that was like, whoa, like, what's happening? Like, things are changing. You know what I mean? Like, there was an acknowledgement from everyone that power dynamic in that instant changed. And so, he was so honest throughout the interview. He was so open, I should say. He was so detailed with so much stuff that by the time we'd gotten to that point, I didn't know that my expectations at the time were that he weren't answered, but I know going into it, I didn't know that I would find out that level of detail with kind of the final separation.
And what did sports mean to getting him away from certain things and starting to become his own man?
Yeah, I think it's interesting, right? Like, I almost don't know that sports were, based on our conversation, this major part of it, right? It allowed him to have an outlet, of course, because football is an intense and a violent sport, but I think it allowed him really to connect with people more than anything. There was an opportunity for, his two of his best friends, one childhood friend, Muddy Gardner, that I think a lot of people know, but two, Mike Santella, who's the offensive line coach at East Stroudsburg. Yeah. Santella didn't play football at East Stroudsburg, right? He was just his roommate in school, and he was a high school coach at the time, and so they built that relationship that way. But, yeah, I think it was just an opportunity for him to build relationships with people and to find success in something, because when, he was, sort of doubted by his father, right? Like, there's this inherent, lack of confidence that can come with something like that, and he didn't let that impact him. He had the confidence to go and be the quarterback, at East Stroudsburg and have success, and then to get into coaching and everything. So I don't know that, you hear a lot of these stories and there's a direct, one-to-one, like football is the escape. I don't know that he ever described it that way. Maybe he does feel that way, but that was never really, a major thing for him. It was really just that, football ended up being what he fell in love with, and something that he wanted to be around later in life. Kind of became consumed by it.
And then the people he's surrounded himself by. He's had some people around him that have been with him day one, and I mean day one Vanderbilt. What have they meant to him?
Yeah, that is his circle, right? Like I said, once you are in, and they're kind of his support system. I go back to Santella being his college roommate, someone that he talked to all the time. They had actually spoken, a lot long before that I spoke with Santella for the story. I think of Dwight Galt, who was obviously a longtime strength and conditioning coach here at Penn State, and then I was at Vanderbilt, but knew him at Kansas State too, and all of these people that when they're, like I said, once you are in the circle, you're kind of in it for good, and he will go to great lengths, and they've supported him, and I think part of what he really appreciates, especially about Santella and Gardner, is that, he's not necessarily Penn State head coach James Franklin to them, right? He's just James. And so he has those guys that he can kind of rely on to just be himself. He is not the sort of put on the pedestal, I guess, like other people put him. He's not viewed as like anything other than their friend. And I think he really appreciates that about both of them.
Did you get a sense to him what loyalty means to him?
Oh, it's everything. I think that was abundantly clear, right? Like he is, loyalty is, it is a major part of who he is. It's, he expects it, but he also gives it. He is fiercely loyal to the people that mean the most to him. He is not one to abandon people. Now, I think there's a level of once that trust is broken, it gets a little harder to rebuild. But, as he told me that when his father died, he was able to get that sort of reconciliation between him, his father, his mom, and his sister. He became more forgiving, but I also think that he, expects the same level of loyalty in return that he gives, and there's a lot of it that he gives. And so I think that is a crucial part of who he is and how he's kind of built what he's built at Penn State and how he built what he built at Vanderbilt too.
Right. No, and I that is when loyalty is a two-way street, right? And that's what he's looking for. He's looking for it to be a two-way street, without question. Questions in this training camp that you'd like to see answered in the first few weeks of the season, what would they be?
I think it's all about those wide receivers, right? I think for another year, this is kind of the question that looms over everyone. I think we all have higher expectations for the transfer receivers and the receivers coming back, but I think, until we all see it on the field, there's going to be some doubts. And so I think those receivers stepping up and allowing the offense to take the next step forward is the biggest thing I think that we're all going to be looking for over. And like you said, it's not. I don't think it's just camp either. I think it's those first few weeks of the season. That'll be pretty impactful with that.
Jon, always a pleasure. Tremendous. We appreciate it very much.
Thank you so much, Steve. Always appreciate coming on.
Jon Sauber, he wrote a tremendous, really an outstanding piece on James Franklin about who he is, how it's shaped, how his life shaped who he is today, all of his experiences, pro and con. And Jon was able to put it all together in an outstanding piece in the Center Daily Times. This half hour brought to you by Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury, Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf, and online at sunburymotors.com as we continue on News Radio 1070 WKOK.
Your summer just got better with Kia Bonus Cash at Sunbury Motors Kia. Summer is heating up at Sunbury Motors Kia with as much as $2,500 in Kia Finance Bonus Cash. That's what you'll save on the 2025 Kia Sorento. And get 1.9% APR financing for 60 months. The best-selling model at Sunbury Motors Kia, the 2025 Kia Sportage, has $500 off in Kia Finance Bonus Cash and has 1.9% APR financing for 60 months. Tired of going to the gas station all the time? Well, SMC has the 2025 all-wheel drive Kia Sportage Hybrid models available that get 38 mpg. Say goodbye to all those pump visits. Remember, every new Kia comes with a 10-year, 100,000-mile limited powertrain warranty. Save now at Sunbury Motors Kia on the Strip in Hummel's Wharf.